Welcome to Traveling Down, Biblical Archaeology for the 21st Century. I'm Gary Byers, Dr. Stephen Collins, and we're talking about Sodom Derangement Syndrome, essay number 7, which we started last time, and so we'll be glad to have you finish this. If you can get the first part, catch it, go back and catch that one. So we're talking about what the Bible says about the city of Sodom, and it's kind of the cultural milieu as opposed to geography and all that kind of stuff.
Right, and we're trying to pick up on all the things that when you read the story, it's easy to just blow right over it and not camp on it. But from an archaeological, geographical, historical point of view, there's a lot of beef in these little phrases.
Now, you pointed out the last time that of the 5 kings of the cities in the local Canaan cities that are mentioned in the story, the only one that is given a voice, the only one who speaks is King Bera of Sodom. So remind us about those cities, and then let's hear what King Bera might or might not have said, and then let's run the story.
Well, we always say that Sodom is the biggest one of all these cities. It's the big urban fortified core of this city-state. So the city-state would be, of course, carrying the namesake of the city itself. It's the city-state of Sodom. I think the Egyptian records have it as the land of Shutu. And of course the Bible calls it the land of the Kikar, the land of the disc, or the alluvial plain of the Jordan. And so the idea that King Bera is the only one amongst the cities that gets to talk also reinforces the idea that Sodom is the big one.
And it's the only one in the Bible mentioned by itself like this. It's very
the
unique.
others are always strung off in a list.
Yeah.
Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim. But this guy and his city are often given single billing. And that doesn't happen unless you're the most important. And that's typical of ancient Near Eastern writing. So we come to Kedorlaomer, and he's targeted Sodom. We mentioned that last time, and it was a big deal. And then in this story, in the aftermath of Abraham actually catching up with Kedorlaomer and getting the spoils that he'd stolen from Sodom, bringing them back and offering them to Bera, we had these little conversations going on between Abraham and King Bera.
And so Abraham brings the stuff back south and gives the king of Sodom his stuff back and says, I want nothing. Normally you would get your cut for bringing his stuff back. I don't want anything. And but all this takes place in the context of Melchizedek in Jerusalem.
Yeah, and there's so much loaded in here. When he says, "Just pay my men," I don't want you to pay me. I don't want anything extra. Just pay my guys. Pay my guys for their expenses and all of that. What is that? That's a mercenary agreement. In other words, this is what we charge for what we do. For our services, this is what we charge. We have expenses, and this is you pay my guys, and we'll be okay. And now I'm going to take the spoils that I get. You can have your stuff back, King Bera. And even gave him Lot back. I thought that was here. You got to take my nephew back too. I know you tried to get rid of him, but here he is back. So Abraham is now going to go back to his to the guy he works for, and the guy he works for is the king of Jerusalem, the city-state of Jerusalem, and he's going to go up there and he's going to square up because he's got an agreement. He's got to pay for whatever all the reasons are. He's got to pay 10% of the war spoils to Melchizedek. That's a prearranged deal, obviously, from the text. So, but it's funny to me that Abraham is accompanied by King Bera. It's almost like Abraham is walking and he's moving. He's going to go across the fords of the Jordan. He's going to mount up to Jerusalem through one of those big wadis, like the Wadi Kelt, or however he gets back up there, and he's going to meet with Melchizedek in the valley of the kings.
Yeah.
Okay. And he's going to meet him there, and they're going to make this transaction. That's a prearranged deal according to the covenant contract that they hold together. But it seems like to me that this whole way Abraham is walking, that King Bera is so odd to me. King Bera is almost tootling behind him saying, but what about this? And maybe he's just dropping deals on him. Hey, I'll pay you this much, I'll do this much and this much. And Abraham along the way, somewhere short, maybe short of arriving at the location, the prearranged location where he'll meet Melchizedek, he stops and he says, look, I am not going to take anything from your hand, King Bera, lest anyone say, and anyone probably is like Melchizedek, my sponsor, lest anyone should say that the king of Sodom made Abraham rich. I'm not taking any of your stuff, so just quit offering me stuff, you know. And I'm sure he's just doing that. I can see it in my mind that King Bera is just tootling behind Abraham, just trying to get his attention and trying to get him to lock in an agreement with him. And he's having no part of it because he's faithful to who? To his arrangement with Melchizedek.
Now, you talk about a tenth, and that's a number that's used frequently in the Bible. But usually when we hear it, in fact, the King James Bible, and I don't know about other translations, calls it a tithe, and of course that's what tenth means. But we would use the word tithe, and that has religious connotations. You're suggesting that tenth isn't necessarily religious because Abraham was seen to be worships the same God that Melchizedek does. They have that in common. So you want to just tie that together a little bit. A tenth is a tithe. It's not necessarily a religious tithe to Melchizedek. This is a business deal arrangement.
Yeah, and it's
a hobby rule idea.
And that fact is picked up in the book of Hebrews.
Yes.
As a type, that the greater is paid the tithe, the lesser pays the tithe. And that was the whole point, that Abraham was lesser than Melchizedek. And then of course, the writer of Hebrews gives this image of this, that Jesus is after the order of Melchizedek, in the likeness of Melchizedek. So, I don't want to go in and do the exegesis of the Hebrews part of this, but if you just look at it in Genesis, this arrangement in chapter 14 between Melchizedek and Abraham looks to be simply a socio-political one. It's a contract, and this is what was done. City-states would often bring on these groups of Habiru warriors, mercenaries, to run first line of protection for their city-state.
Now, these two seem to have a religious connection to Yahweh.
They had a religious affinity, at least.
Yep. Yes. And so that would be the case.
And by the way, it makes it very clear that Yahweh was the witness to this contract between Melchizedek. In other words, Yahweh was invoked in the contract between Melchizedek and Abraham.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point. So there was a religious element to the covenant. And by the way, that's a no-brainer. Everything in antiquity had, regardless of the culture involved, had a religious ritual component to it.
Yeah. All right. So we should move on. So we have introduced Sodom. We got Lot in Sodom. We've got Lot taken from Sodom. We got Lot back in Sodom, and that's all Genesis 14. Now we go to Genesis 19, and this is where Sodom's big story occurs.
Yeah, and of course, everybody pays attention to that.
Yes, we do.
We kind of tolerate the rest of the story. We read the story, oh, that's nice. But then we really want to get to the destruction.
We do.
It's just like the movies,
We do.
You go to the movie and you want to see the big explosion. You want to see the big blow up. So that's what we look for.
Yes,
and so that's what people do. And so let's focus on that.
Okay, so that happens in 19.
Yeah. And these messengers from Yahweh show up on Lot's doorstep. Well, they show up at the city gate. And Lot says, no, you guys are not spending the night in the plaza. This is not a good idea here. You come to my house, and we all know what happened there. But Lot is having explained to him every detail of what's about to happen. And he even suggests that, well, I want you to, you're telling me that I need to go up, and I think they're probably aiming him to go up to Mount Nebo.
Yeah.
They want him to go kind of at a right angle to the event, because I think they've told Lot it's going to come from this direction. It's going to be really bad. It's going to kill everything and everybody. And you want to go up. You want to get up out of the valley. You want to get up on the plateau. And Lot says, well, why? Why don't I just go straight south along the Dead Sea to Zoar, which is toward the south end of the deep northern basin of the Dead Sea, about the Arnon confluence.
And then again, going straight up that's the real barrier between the Canaanites and everybody else up. And he said, man, I don't want to do that. But this could be much better route.
Yeah, I think he's thinking, well, what if I sprain my ankle? Well, what if my donkey stumbles? What if something happens and I get stuck? You tell me this is going to happen. I need a perfect day to get from there to there.
It's tomorrow.
Right? It's tomorrow. So they say, okay. He said, what about this town? And he points maybe on a little map in the sand or a map on the table. Maybe the messengers unrolled a map of the whole deal, and they've explained what's going to happen to him. He says, well, what about this down here? This town down here, this little guy down here. Let me go that way because it's flat. It's straight down the little donkey track down the eastern shore of the Dead Sea, and I want to go there. And the angels say, okay. And so the next morning they get him up early 30, like at dawn or before dawn, and gather the family up and get him out on the road and get him moving. And by the way, all of this, you can say all day long that this story is a myth. You can just be happy in your bubble bath and your cocktail, in the evening, just thinking that this whole thing is nothing but mythical nonsense. But I'm telling you, 100% of this story plays out geographically, logically, reasonably, culturally, archaeologically, in every single way. There's nothing about this story that can't be confirmed from the ancient world. This story is not a myth. It's an eyewitness account, and if you think it's otherwise, I think you've spun the myth in your own mind. You've ignored the reality.
Yeah, well, and especially when you add, I don't know that you use the word science in there, but the science of astrology, geophysics, all this stuff, it really seems to fit. Okay, so do you want to talk about the blast, or do we want to do the post-blast stuff? What do you want to talk about?
We're gonna head toward the blast.
All right.
And we're gonna have a blast with it.
Okay, we'll blast off.
And that's going to be in our essay number 10 installment.
Okay.
I'm working on that one right now because we've got some very recent information, cutting edge stuff that we're dealing with. And also, of course, there's always pushback. Anytime you try to use, to demonstrate that science supports the biblical narrative, then people get a little weird, people get a little crazy, and they say crazy things and they try to do crazy things. And we're going to talk about some of that craziness in our number 10 installment.
Well, so then the trip south for Lot and his family, the angel made it real clear, and you don't catch it in the English Bibles, but you must not stop in the Kikar, that alluvial plain at the north end of the Dead Sea from the Jordan River.
Yep.
You can't stay there because this is where the event is going to happen.
And post-event it says, and God destroyed all the land of the Kikar. That was the target.
So, the whole thing, not just
You don't want to be in there.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to talk about Lot's wife today. And we'll talk about that in number 10.
Oh, okay, all right.
But we have a reasonable scientific explanation for what all that was about. But my point right here is that everything about this story works out geographically. It's logical. It's reasonable. It's what I would do. It's knowing the area, knowing the city, knowing the roads, and what all the possibilities for escape were. It all is played out over a real world geography, and it's very detailed, and it makes perfect sense. And so let's leave this one lay until next time.
Okay. Well, we're talking about what Dr. Collins is referring to as Sodom Derangement Syndrome, where you just don't get it because you just don't know the facts. And so we're trying to lay out the facts best we can. Join us again. We got more to talk about.